Let me get.
I mean, I know Dan is taller than me, but gee whiz, people, come on, help a brother out.
Yeah. By the way, and we're having all kinds of technical issues. Our crew in Bristol is doing a great job just keeping us on the air today. We couldn't put the tweet up, but you should just know that our friend Mr. Stephen A. Smith, who will be in our studio in the next hour, is coming for you.
Come on.
He is.
Come on.
How do you laugh like that?
It was us. This is what we do in my family, man.
Stephen A. is on the way in the next hour. Lots of coverage of the game over the weekend, obviously, and the game last night and everything else. And Swagoo, as you would imagine, is fired up in every conceivable way. As we welcome you to another hour of Get Up, and as always, we come to you live from above the Heineken River Deck at Pier 17, and here comes the menu. We're getting up on a Tuesday with the best Monday night game of the season. Overtime, division on the line. Full highlights for you right out of the gate. Then, we've talked about load management in the NBA, but how about in the NFL? Is it time to sit? Saquon Barkley would have been sacrilegious a generation ago. We'll talk about it. And I'm telling you, there's a chance, actually a very good chance, that we see Bama and LSU again in 2 months. We'll explain exactly how in this hour of Get Up, which starts right now. For the touchdown, Seattle up 14-10. It's 21-10 in the fourth. Wilson is back to throw. And here's the craziest play of the night. How many people wind up with the ball?
I've never seen anything like this. You see the fumble, the offensive tackle, Ifedi comes and picks it up. Then there's a fumble by him for San Francisco's defense. But this is the interesting part. Watch the left side of the screen, as Pete Carroll doesn't understand. Once Ifedi gets the football, watch the left side of the screen when Warner comes in right, bop, and pops that ball up, Peanut Tillman style. San Francisco touchdown.
Where the hell was Ifedi going?
And it looks like he was. So we have a lot of questions. In the meantime, in the fourth quarter, under 4 minutes to go on a third down, Wilson finds Josh Gordon, his newest target, and that sets up this. Jason Myers, 46 yards, and it's good. Seattle a 24-21 lead, a $145. All right, Jimmy G, what you got? Can you bring your team down to tie it or win it? That's the question. The answer is yes.
Really good job by Jimmy G, just getting a rock out of his hands, get completions. Guys were catching the ball, getting north and south, at least giving them a chance for a field goal.
Here's the rookie, Chase McLaughlin, 47 yards, and it's good. So we're going to overtime. And in many ways, we were just getting started. Seattle gets the ball first on a third down. Remember the situation in the game here. Because it is the first possession of overtime, a field goal doesn't win it. They got to try and score touchdowns. And first, Russell's got to do this.
This is such a big third down conversion in this moment. Breaks the pocket, finds the receiver on the edge, little yard after catch, and you're thinking really good stuff if you're the Seattle Seahawks.
Again, they're in field goal range, but field goals don't mean in this circumstance what they otherwise might. They take a chance and they pay for it.
Well, Russell thought that linebacker was going to keep drifting to the sideline, but he drifted and still got depth. He tried to get it up over his head, not able to. The length of him helps. And then there's a big return, and San Francisco's going, we're going to win this football game.
They had their chance. 47 yards again for McLaughlin. Oh, but that one's not even close. Right off the foot, it never had a chance, and so the game continues. And if you give Russell Wilson a second chance to beat you, chances are he will. Look at him here on a third down play.
San Francisco decides to pressure, and just a little seam for Russell Wilson. No hesitation, foot in the ground. Go get a huge conversion.
Here's your ball game, folks. 4 seconds to go. Jason Myers again, and this one is good. 42 yards away, and the Seahawks knock San Francisco from the ranks of the unbeaten. Celebration for Russell Wilson and company.
How would you describe this one?
It's probably the craziest game I've ever played, to be honest with you. I don't think I've ever been a part of a game that crazy, that long, that back and forth, that back and forth.
You want a nice, easy win. Just can feel it from the beginning of the game. And, you know, eat the guac and the chips and just kind of kick back. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. It took us all the way till there was nothing left.
Yeah, no guac and chips last night for Jimmy G. He was massively outplayed by Russell Wilson. And if you look at Wilson's number and put that in perspective against a defense that may very well be the best in the sport. Meanwhile, Garoppolo posted the worst total QBR by any quarterback against Seattle this year. So an interesting night all the way around. And again, pop the champagne corks in South Florida, the 72 Dolphins. There will be no unbeaten team in the NFL this year. Des joins the conversation here on this. As you watch Russell Wilson playing this season, what do you feel like we're seeing as it is? Seems like for a guy who's been a great player, he has taken even another step.
What I love about Russell Wilson is his mental resolve. He's been like this since college. He's the type of guy that when you know he's on your team, you know you have a chance to win the game. I don't want to compare him physically to Brett Favre, But Brett Favre was a guy that no matter what the circumstances were, we understood if number 4 was behind center, we had a chance to win that game. To me, that's what Russell Wilson brings to the Seattle Seahawks.
And earlier this morning, I asked you the question, who's the best team in the NFC? And you gave me the Seahawks.
Yeah, it's Seattle, and it's because of the guy you just talked about, Des. It permeates throughout the whole team. Look, as a defensive player, when I'm sitting across from the other side watching the offense take the field, and I've had some of those years with Tony Romo where you said, we get him the ball back, we're going to get this W. That is so much confidence going throughout your organization. And I said after that field goal was missed, I said Sierra called Russ and was like, it's time to come home, bro. Like, don't get this thing over with. And two, I don't want to miss the fact, because we talking about Russell Wilson having the opportunity to make that drive. That Seattle defense standing up and stopping them on the 3rd and short to make that a 47-yard field goal was huge in this game, the one that he missed.
And so let's talk about him, and then we'll talk about Jimmy G. But your thoughts through a quarterback size of what we're seeing in Wilson, who has never won an MVP award. There's probably been some seasons where he should have been considered more than he has been. Right now, I think it's his to lose.
He's the best quarterback in football. You can't, if someone asks you, is Russell Wilson the best quarterback in football? There's no way you can say no.
Yeah.
There's just no evidence that you can say no. The clarity that he plays with. Like when you watch him play, we talk about quarterbacks and sometimes they were confused, they played with doubt. There's no doubt with when he, like, not only in the passing game, but you saw it last night in the run game. Like it started in the second quarter to third, where if there was any moment where he could put his foot in the ground and go get a seam, because again, quarterbacks got to be aware of who they're playing against. You're playing on the road against the best defensive line in football. You make sure that that defensive line doesn't win the football game. And Russell did that last night, but it was the ability to play with a clear mind and decision-making.
Quickly on the other team. I was at the other team. They were unbeaten until last night. We've talked this morning about Kansas City's defense being so bad, Patrick Mahomes may not be able to lift it to a Super Bowl. San Francisco's defense is really good, but does Jimmy Garoppolo, is he not enough to lift them to a Super Bowl?
If it's one thing you point to on that team to say this is sort of a flaw that could cost them a chance at winning the Super Bowl, is Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, he didn't have Kittle. Emmanuel Sanders was injured. But when I saw Jimmy G take over and try to go downfield, I saw Seattle drop 2 interceptions. I can't get that out of my mind. And I know after that he made plays to get the drive progress, to give them an opportunity to kick a field goal. But if I got a $100 million guy standing behind center, I expect him in those moments to leave no doubt that this is going to be a W. And with Jimmy G, like you said, we can't say about Russell Wilson. What I can't say about Jimmy Garoppolo is that he's going to take me to the promised land when he's out there on the field.
If we're looking at the NFC playoff picture, because the 49ers are going, right? And we're talking strictly the quarterback position, everyone's had their moment. Every quarterback has had their moment where they've proven it to all of us and everybody. And to Dez's point, teammates, I got it. I will prove, or I will show up when you need me to show up. And Jimmy G just hasn't yet for the 49ers when it's in the game where it mattered the most, in the moment, it hasn't happened.
Well, look, I mean, in the NFC playoff picture, barring something stunning, at minimum, you're going to have Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, and Russell Wilson. They're all Super Bowl champions.
All proven it.
They're all-time great players. So, you know, someone's going to have to knock those guys off to get through them. Now, the next story in the NFC is one that is really confusing. With every passing week, it becomes more and more likely that the Rams are going to miss the playoffs. They mustered only 12 points in a loss to the Steelers on Sunday. And Todd Gurley, who was a first-team All-Pro last year, had only 6 touches for 38 yards in the second half. And his answer, when asked about it, raised a lot of eyebrows.
Do you wish that you had received the ball more maybe in the second half, or that you were getting more of the carries?
Not really. I mean, kind of used to it.
Kind of used to it. What is going on? The drop-off in usage is staggering. A year ago, Gurley was the most used and most productive offensive player in the sport. This year, Royce Freeman and Adrian Peterson, who is as old as I am, have touched the ball more than Todd Gurley has. Now, this is a really confusing story. You can talk about how, okay, they wanted to maybe not use him up early in the year, but the season is getting away. Look at the NFC. It's going to get hopelessly away from them. Why would you not give your best player the ball?
I have been concerned about Todd Gurley's usage because of health. And I'm not sure if the Rams are confident that if they give him a legit workload and they by chance get in the playoffs, if he's going to be available. I said it earlier, when you have degenerative knee like Todd Gurley has, you have to be concerned with giving him the rock. Now, with that being said, Sean McVay was lauded for what he did with Jared Goff. And this was a high-powered offense scoring 50 points a game and determining coaching jobs throughout the NFL.
Right.
Like, I'm looking for this type of guy. I think sometimes you can just get enamored with trying to put numbers up, right? Instead of saying, hey, we may be a 20 to 24 point team, and we're gonna have to play defense. Like that may be the direction that they need to go, but I'm not sure if they've adjusted.
Here's my question, Dan, is sometimes just because you've paid the quarterback like he's Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees doesn't mean he is. And it doesn't mean you all of a sudden decide we're going to put everything on the shoulders of Jared Goff to the exclusion of the guy who is legitimately the best player on your team.
Well, I mean, Jared Goff and Todd Gurley are both struggling and suffering from their offensive line, but I can't explain the lack of usage. But it's the offensive line that has fallen apart. Like, you watch the interior of their offensive line, and it just gets pushed back and back and back into a pocket where a quarterback can't operate. And then you're talking about an offensive line when it comes on the perimeter, so you're getting pushed in the inside, you're getting closed on the outside, the play action is gone, their play fakes, and I'll be honest here, stink right now. They're gotten lazy in their play fake when they get the ball into the back's belly, but I can't explain the lack of usage. It's a mystery to me. Like, I don't understand how airplanes work. I don't understand Stonehenge. I don't understand how Todd Gurley is not getting the football.
Well,
I get the degenerative knee thing.
Yeah.
I understand that.
And then
But why aren't you giving him the football?
G, we looking at these numbers. What's that? Because I'm not really great at math.
Yeah.
6-7 a carry.
Yeah.
6.7,
Here's the crazy
something
thing.
like
Here's
that.
the crazy thing. When Todd Gurley's gone over 100 under Sean McVay, you know how many losses they have?
0. It's basically 6 yards a carry, and that's he didn't catch the football. This is very confusing. And look, I mean, there's a fantasy
perplexed.
impact, but
But
that's
there's
not
two
important.
things. Again, there's two things. There's the lack of usage with Todd Gurley. He's not getting any touches. Their offensive line was one of the best offensive lines in football last year. They are legit one of the worst offensive lines in football this year.
They
You
were
can't
in the
run from
Super
that.
Bowl last year, and they looked like the team of the future. Now they've been lapped in their own division by the 49ers and the Seahawks and are in significant danger of missing the playoffs. All right, now let's get back to the game. Saturday night, and my buddy Mr. Spears will never get tired of watching this and these. Joe Burrow, brilliant. They ran it. They threw it. They did everything you could possibly do as LSU knocked off Alabama in Nick Saban's building with a 46-41 win. And yesterday, Ed Orgeron was asked how he celebrated when he got home.
What have the last 24 hours been like for you and the team?
Been great. Been great. You know, I went home with Saturday night. Me and Kelly had a ham sandwich and some chips and watched SportsCenter. I mean, a great night.
That is a great night. God bless that man. That's exactly
night.
what you would think. How did you celebrate Saturday night, by the way?
Oh, man, I had a couple cocktails.
and a ham sandwich and some chips? I don't know. Anyway, so if you were not with us in our first hour, Swagoo, as you might have expected, went nuts.
Yeah.
And that's available on our Twitter page, @GetUpESPN. I'm not going to ask him to recreate it. So, why not? So let's dive into some of the meaning of this, okay? It is an enormous win. And Paul, as one who is the voice of the Southeastern Conference, that is a win that is much more than just winning a football game, right?
Yeah, I think it's premature to talk about ships passing in the night, but it's not that premature because it's a seminal win as I have seen in a long time. Greeny, I know what you said yesterday about the whole sport of college football, but Nick Saban has owned this league, and the primary reason he has owned it is because he has been beating LSU since 2011. That was his biggest competitor along with Auburn. And now you just have the feeling that recruits are looking at Ed Orgeron and going, I want to play for that guy. Nick Saban is the GOAT, but he's 68 years old, and it just seems like this program is dropping back just a little bit.
Like, look, they've been on top for so long. Nothing stays that way forever. But now let's swing it. Desmond, over here. There is a 69% chance, according to our playoff predictor, that Alabama still winds up in the playoff. Let's talk about that path. how likely you think it is that we see Bama and LSU, candidly, again.
Gee, I think it's highly likely. When you look at Alabama, don't forget, they were number 3 in the country a week ago. They lose to the number 1 team in the country by 5 points. So they're not going to drop that far. They may drop to number 5. Some saying they may drop just to number 4. I still think if they only get to number 5, Paul, there's no way they're not going to climb back into the top 4 if they keep winning. So I think their path is kind of clear.
This is the best thing about the sport, okay? I want to make it clear. I never want this to go away because there are endless conversations it creates. But, Marcus, at the end of the day, here's what we're debating. Alabama has the best loss.
Yeah.
But lots of other teams will have much better wins when the season ends, assuming everything goes as expected. Their best win will be Auburn, who will very likely have 4 losses. Can you put a team in when that's their best win?
I don't think so, G. Look, I was listening. We had this conversation with Dez this morning. I'm thinking that Paul and I were on the same page about Alabama being 4 because Georgia lost to South Carolina. But now, like, I wasn't thinking about the flip side. Georgia beat Florida, who was in the top 10.
And Notre Dame.
So, like, it is what the committee is going to value when they having that conversation.
Marcus, if you don't have a conference win, the committee says you have to be unequivocally better than everybody else. Yeah. Alabama is unequivocally one of the top 4 teams in the country. Absolutely. I don't think it's debatable.
Absolutely.
So if you want to, you can apply all this win-loss stuff, but Alabama's still going to come out ahead if you look at them and go, who's better than them other than these top 3?
You know what? Because the last time, or last week when the rankings came out, everyone started to talk about the eye test, the eye test, the eye test. And you take the algorithms and you throw them out and you just go by the eye test. Alabama is clearly one of the top 4 teams in the country.
Well, look, when you deem the winner of this game, though, all right, and now that we having this conversation and things are ironing out, you got to pay attention to it. They gave up 46 points.
Yep.
Like that is going to weigh heavily in the committees at home. That's going to weigh heavily on their mind.
Listen, here's how they get knocked out. It's not that complicated. Georgia beats LSU for the SEC championship. Then there's no way Alabama gets in. Because then Georgia gets in, LSU gets in, an unbeaten Big Ten champ gets in, and Clemson gets in, right? That's the way Alabama gets left.
That's absolutely right.
Right? And other than that, we're looking at the Big 12. We're looking at the Pac-12 champion. We think Alabama gets in ahead of any of them.
And everyone out in the hinterlands is going to scream that it's Alabama bias, but it's not. I mean, they are a really good football team.
Anybody in their right mind would take Alabama over Oregon. Yeah. They would take Alabama over anybody in the Big 12.
Right. Don't forget, Oregon lost to Auburn, which would mean Alabama.
Don't be emotional if you get to that point. You know Bama better than every team in the Big 12.
Not to take away from the greatest day since your wedding night, but Tua was hurt. The committee will factor that in.
Okay.
he don't play defense.
Looking for reasons.
I'm not.
He don't play defense.
Better than your wedding?
Let me get up and go. Don't get this man in trouble. Let me get up and go. Washington has named Dwayne Haskins its starting quarterback for the rest of the season. He was expected to start Sunday against the Jets anyway. Now they say he's starting for the rest of the year. Dan, what do you think of the decision?
Yeah, really good decision. You have to figure out what Dwayne Haskins is. I actually went back and watched his first start 2 weeks ago on the road against Buffalo. Played really good, knew where to go with the football, threw it decisively and accurately, made some plays with his feet. This is a really good decision for the Redskins and really good decision for Dwayne Haskins. The most important thing for him right now, take advantage of it. Lock in for these next 2 months and prove yourself to your organization that you're at least potentially the guy that they think you are for the future.
I can't imagine it was even a question. Meanwhile, the Steelers are in Cleveland Thursday. They hope to have James Conner back. He's missed the last 2 with a shoulder. Dan, what does he mean to this game?
Well, it's a big deal because you still have a young quarterback in Mason Rudolph that is starting to play well when it comes to distributing the football. The defense has proven it's one of the better top 5 units in the NFL. So if Conner can come back, this offensive line for the Steelers is starting to play the way that we all expect them to. If they can continue to play defense this way, and Mason Rudolph continues to protect the football, value it, and distribute it to some playmakers, and this run game gets going, the Steelers can do something interesting near the end of this season.
Get up and go to baseball, where awards are being handed out. Astros designated hitter Yordan Alvarez took the AL Rookie of the Year. Despite not making his debut till June 9th, he hit .313 with 27 homers in 87 games. He slugged .655, highest ever for a rookie. who came to the plate at least 300 times. In the National League, no surprise, Pete Alonso of the Mets wins the Rookie of the Year, set a record with 53 home runs, drove in 120. Alonso was not a lock to make the Mets opening day roster heading into spring training, but had a huge spring and became the best offensive first baseman in the sport. Coming up on